Mastermind, Strategist for Hire. Written by Clouds, My Head in the Clouds, Not Coming Down. And read by Eleanor Elizabeth. Chapter 30. Hints of What's to Come. I was right. Shoto slammed the door open to Izuku's base with zero preamble, and Izuku was off the couch with a knife in his hand before he realized who it was. Oh, it's just you. Izuku put the knife away and sat back down. And what were you right about? His boyfriend looked at him intensely. It's a conspiracy. Another conspiracy? Izuku laughed. Is this the one where Officer Sansa is a cat god? No. Yes. Maybe. That part hasn't been proved yet. Shoto took off his hat and ran his fingers through his hair. I'm talking about the one where a bunch of major companies, including Feel Good Inc., are part of a major extra-governmental group that is trying to take over the world. Izuku raised one eyebrow. Not that I don't believe you, Shoto, but what actual evidence do you have? Shoto sat down. So, you know how you were complaining last week that nobody could get a hold of Jiren? Izuku nodded. I mean, now I'm pretty sure he's been kidnapped if the fingers and clothes the police have been finding are any indication. Bingo. Shoto smiled. So, we were off in the mountains trying to let Shigaraki beat Gigantomachia, right? Right, Izuku nodded. Well, then we got this call on Twice's phone from the people who kidnapped Jiren, giving us an hour to meet them in Deka City if we wanted to save him. Then, when we showed up, they basically attacked us on sight to prove that they were stronger. Not only is it Feel Good Incorporated, but they've got Detnerat and the leader of the Hearts and Minds Party, not to mention a handful of heroes. Seriously, it was crazy. Really? Izuku hummed thoughtfully and leaned his chin on his hands. With such powerful backers, I'm surprised I haven't heard of them. They haven't done anything hugely criminal yet, Shoto shrugged. Just some black market support items, stuff like that. They called themselves the... Shoto struggled for a moment. Oh, that's right. They call themselves the Meta Liberation Army. Izuku's eyebrow shot up. You mean like Destro? I thought that cult died out decades ago. Shoto hit himself on the head. That's what they were acting like. He laughed and put his feet up on the coffee table. And I don't really know. I've never heard of them before. I think the leader called himself Redastro, though. So, basically, Izuku hummed, this Meta-Liberation Army tried to challenge the League in order to assert their dominance. Considering you're here, I take it that they lost? Shoto nodded eagerly. Yep. Oh, and your theory on Twice needing to be injured to overcome his psychological trauma was correct, by the way. We probably wouldn't have made it out alive if he hadn't turned the tide by cloning himself. Well, that and Gigantomachia showing up to try and fight Shigaraki again. As it was, Toga was pretty badly injured, but the doctor treated her wounds, so she'll probably have a few scars, but he said she'll make a full recovery. Izuku clenched his fists. Were you injured, Shoto? Shoto wrapped him in a hug. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. But they tried to kill you. And you said for yourself that they hurt Himiko. What if they'd killed her? I don't have that many friends, Shoto. Izuku's voice cracked. I can't afford to lose any of you. Yeah, Shoto said softly. But I'm strong, and so is Toga. We wouldn't be in the League if we couldn't defend ourselves, and we never go into battle alone. Darby was there to protect me, and Twice protected Toga. We're okay. I should destroy them for trying to hurt you guys, Izuku said darkly. We can take care of ourselves, Izuku. Shoto gave him a look. I mean, you can do what you want. But for now, we've won, and they lost, and they agreed to give us access to their resources. And besides, Shoto shrugged, at this point, we're basically just biding our time before stabbing them in the back, and they're doing the same to us. Izuku took a deep breath. All right, I trust you. But if they hurt you again, they're dead, okay? Shoto nodded, smiling. Thanks, Izuku. They also want to meet you. They apparently already know who you are, since they're basically running a surveillance state behind the scenes, but they said they had some questions for you. Izuku looked up at him skeptically. They have questions or they have a job, because those are two completely different things. Shoto shrugged and leaned back further into the couch. They didn't specify. I do know, though, that they aren't lacking for cash. They can afford even your ridiculous prices. Fine, Izuku huffed. I'll meet with them, but if I don't like them, I reserve the right to kill them. Shoto laughed and kissed him. I wouldn't expect anything less. Now, since this part of the conspiracy has been proven true, I just need to find undeniable evidence that Sansa was present in ancient Egypt. Keigo Tamaki frowned as he looked in the mirror after his meeting with Darby. He'd begged the Hero Commission to pull him out after Endeavor's death, but they argued that he'd already laid the groundwork, and it was too late to send in anyone else. Keigo didn't think it was good for the number one hero to even pretend to be a villain after what happened to the last number one, but maybe he'd be able to catch a glimpse of Mastermind, or even identify him, considering his close relationship with the League. The latest JP Bilbo announcement had been tense, for lack of a better word. After he'd been announced as number one, the other heroes kept glancing at him like he'd been given a death sentence, which maybe he had. Hawk sighed and began washing his face. It was just so frustrating. The point of having popular heroes was to reassure the public, but with Mastermind on the loose, the more popular heroes were having the opposite effect. At the after-party, there had even been rumours that this would probably be the last JP announcement until Mastermind was safely behind bars, to avoid giving him more targets. Darby had yet to introduce him to any other members of the League. Keigo hadn't even met Darby's brother yet, though Tokoyami had mentioned Shoto a few times during his work study. To think that Endeavor really... He shook his head. It didn't matter. Endeavor may have been an inspiration to him, but he wasn't the reason he became a hero. My future as a hero, or my future as your masterpiece. Either way, it's no great loss. I didn't ask for either one. Keigo pushed those thoughts from his head as he got ready for bed. No, he wasn't like Friezaburn. So what if neither of them had been given a choice when it came to their career path? He wanted to help people, not hurt them. So, at the end of the day, they weren't the same at all. Besides, growing up with the Hero Commission hadn't been that bad. Sure, it had been a lot of training, but it'd been all worth it, hadn't it? Darby had mentioned a new group the League was partnering with, something called the Meta Liberation Army. Keigo would have to look them up more tomorrow, see what they were about and what their ideals were. Hopefully, there was a weakness the Hero Commission could exploit when the two groups came together. He didn't know what they'd do if the League didn't get taken down soon. The media was already tearing the Commission apart as it was. They couldn't afford any more failures. Jiren jumped when a loud bang sounded in the alleyway outside his office and froze for a solid minute before realizing it was just a cat that had knocked over a trash can. He shook his head. He'd heard that same sound hundreds of times during the decades this had been his office, so why was he getting so freaked out now? He grimaced as he finished adjusting the mechanical hand he'd ordered and tried to flex the fingers. The hand moved sluggishly, giving Jiren the feeling that everything was just slightly to the left of where it should be. And it hurt, as if having his fingers removed one by one hadn't been bad enough. Now he had to deal with the pain any time he wanted to move his fake ones. His cell phone rang and he tried to answer it, only to drop it as his mechanical hand refused to cooperate. He tore the hand off and threw it down on the desk in frustration, glaring at it for a long moment before using his left hand to answer the call. "Hey, Dragon, what can I do for you?" Jiren tried to smirk like he usually did, but the expression slipped from his face almost immediately. "Glad to hear you're alright after the kidnapping, Jiren. You had us worried there for a minute." Dragon's voice was harsh and somewhat gravelly, a side effect of his fire breath quirk. "I'm fine," Jiren said, too quickly. "But you didn't call to inquire after my health." Dragon laughed. "You're right. Glad to see you haven't lost your head for business. I want you to set up a meeting with Mastermind." Jiren sighed. "Like I told you the last 3 times you asked me, he refuses to work with you. Sorry, Dragon, but you should know better than to make Mastermind do something he doesn't want to do. Those who try are lucky if they only end up dead." "Why? I'm willing to pay his prices," Dragon yelled. and Jiren knew he probably had literal smoke pouring from his nostrils. I don't know why. Jiren tried to rub the bridge of his nose, only to realize at the last moment he didn't have the fingers required for the action. Look, he didn't tell me why he doesn't want to work with you, just that he won't. I'm not going to go behind his back to set up a meeting. I value both of our lives too much for that. On the other end of the line, Dragon huffed. Fine, have it your way. But just let Mastermind know he's not the only villain capable of holding a grudge. Dragon hung up abruptly, and Jiren took a deep breath before putting the phone down and picking up his new hand again. Mastermind wasn't usually picky about who he worked with. Normally, even if he didn't like someone, he'd still meet with them if the payoff was right. That's what made it so odd that he outright refused to meet with Dragon or his gang, the Dragon's Horde, no matter how much the man offered to pay him. When he'd asked, Mastermind had mentioned that it was personal, but refused to explain any more than that. Jiren shook his head. One thing was certain. Whatever Dragon had done to piss Mastermind off, it had to have been big. Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals. It's Eleanor, and I hope you're having a lovely day today. Oh my god, can you believe we're already just made it through chapter 30 of Mastermind? Like, it's kind of wild. There's only like 13 chapters left after this. What are we gonna do when it's over? I mean, there is a sequel. I'm still debating what to do about the sequel because it is on hiatus at the moment. And so I don't know what to do. Even though I really like the sequel, I don't know whether to just like start it and I guess come back to it if it ever gets finished. I don't know. What do you think I should do? But I actually really like this chapter. It's really fun, to see my favourite boy, conspiracy theorist, Shoto Todoroki, being in his element. He has been vindicated. He was right. And we should all believe him on all of his theories. Sansa is going to be Cat God, and Izuku is All Might's secret love child. I don't make the rules. Shoto does. We've also seen a little bit of the repercussions of Jiren's kidnapping, which would be severely traumatizing. As well as, now we're maybe going to be moving into seeing Redestro. Fun. If you're up to date with like the anime or manga, I'm sure you'll know what his ideals are. So that should be an interesting clash, shouldn't it? And we've also got the mysterious dragon. Who could this be? Why does Mastermind not want to meet him? Who could guess? Oh. She said, knowing full well because she's read this fanfiction 30 times. Don't worry about it. I'll pretend like I don't know what's going on so I don't spoil you for later chapters. Be all like, who is this man? But be sure to let me know your thoughts and theories and what you think is going to happen and just how you're doing in the comments down below. I love to talk to you guys because as I'm sure you can tell from my lengthy outros, I like to talk. A little bit too much probably, but I have a fun time and I like hearing back from you. If you want to talk to me more, you can always join the Discord. It's a fun time. You could also like the video, if you liked it, and to boost my serotonin levels. You can also subscribe to be notified whenever I make new videos. Exciting, I know. Don't all rush down there at once. You can also check out all the other videos that I make. I have a lot of podfics. I make a lot of videos. But, if you like that, you can always support me on Ko-Fi. You can also find me on AO3 and Spotify and Instagram and Twitter, whatever. They're all in the description down below. But until I see you again, be sure to practice some self-care. Go to bed on time so that you can get all the sleep you need. Be sure to eat your 5 a day, fruit and veg people, brush your teeth, and please, for Izuku's sake, get some hydration. Drink some water. Coffee does not count, okay? Drink it. 'Cause yes, this is a threat. and I will catch you guys laters.